Hello everybody, it's Liam Naden here, and welcome. And in this episode, we're going to cover something that I think you'll find pretty interesting and powerful. And I've called it the 30-day plan to save and transform your marriage. So this is all about not only how you can save your marriage within 30 days, or even less actually, but also to transform it, and by that I mean to make it even better than it ever was. So I don't know where you are right now, obviously, but you're probably here because you're in a place of real pain in your marriage or your relationship. Maybe you're feeling hurt, maybe there's a lot of hurt there, maybe your spouse is feeling hurt as well. Maybe one or either of you are considering leaving. Maybe one or either of you is having an affair. Perhaps you've tried counselling, perhaps you've tried everything in fact. And maybe your spouse is not willing to try anything more, or perhaps didn't even want to try counselling in the first place. But for whatever reason, all the love and the communication has gone from your marriage and relationship probably. And you might be thinking from where you are right now that to rescue your marriage and make it an amazing relationship, particularly in just 30 days, is just a fantasy. You know, you're probably thinking, well, it can't possibly be done in your case. I mean, maybe you just can't imagine that you and your spouse have got over all your problems and you're having a loving relationship, and where not only do you feel truly loved by them, but you love them as well, and you're sharing fun and laughter, and things are fun and they're easy between you, and you've both completely got over any hurts that you were feeling, and where you've got a fantastic sex life as well, and you're both exploring ways to satisfy each other sexually, so that it keeps things bubbling and exciting and getting better day by day. So you really are probably thinking this is all impossible, but the truth is it's not, and any marriage, I believe, can be saved and turned into this sort of relationship. However, to do that, and particularly within this 30-day period which I'm going to show you about, you need to have certain things in place. Now, the first thing you need to have is you need to have a commitment. So you really have to want to save your marriage. Now, this is something I've covered in earlier podcasts in a lot more detail. So if you haven't already listened to some of those, I really encourage you to go back and have a listen, because you need to have a commitment that you're going to save your marriage. You need to be really committed to it. And even if your spouse is not, if you are, that's the vital thing. And one way to get committed, just briefly, is to ask yourself, what will I lose if my marriage ends? It's a really good question to ask yourself. What will I lose if my marriage ends? And also, on the other side, what have I got to gain from having a great marriage? So the first thing you need is a commitment to save your marriage. Now, the second thing you need is you need to have the right information. And this is obviously absolutely critical. You need to know exactly what to do, because no matter how committed you are to saving your marriage and transforming it, if you don't have the right information, you're not going to do the right things, so you're not going to get the right result. And of course, that's what I'm here to do, is to share with you some of the right information, to give you the right information, things that actually really work. So that's the second thing. The third thing is you need to take action. And this is obviously the key, because you can have the commitment and you can have all the right information, but if you never actually do anything, you're not going to get the right result either. And not only do you need to take action, but you need to take consistent action. Just doing something once is probably going to have not much effect. You've got to do it consistently. So they're the three things you need to put in place. All right, now you were probably asking, why did I choose 30 days? Why am I saying this is a 30-day plan to saving and transforming your marriage? Well, what I've found is that if you have the right information, and you're obviously committed, and you take consistent action on a daily basis, and it need not be a lot of action, it just needs to be the right action on a consistent basis, then after 30 days, that's about the right amount of time I've found for three things to happen. So after 30 days, this is what you're going to find. Firstly, you will hopefully have transformed your marriage. You'll have taken it from a place of pain to a real strong place of great joy. That's the first thing that happens, and it generally takes about 30 days for that to really get embedded in place with the right information and the right action. But the second thing is, after 30 days, you're going to know an enormous amount about your own relationship. Because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be applying new information and ideas every day. So if you can imagine, by the end of 30 days of that, you will have built up a huge knowledge about how your relationship actually works. And not only that, but about how you think and how your spouse thinks as well, and how your spouse operates, and what's really going on in your relationship, and what to do and what not to do to create the ideal marriage, the fulfilling marriage for you. So that's the second thing. But the other thing after 30 days is you're not only going to have developed a lot of information about your own relationship, but you're going to know a tremendous amount about how relationships work in general. And you're going to have built up some skills in that area as well. And what tends to happen is you're going to start noticing a lot more about what other people are doing in their relationships, what they're doing that is working or not working. And, my hope is that, who knows, you might actually even be inspired to share some of that knowledge and help other people as well. So that's why 30 days is such a powerful amount of time to create this transformation. Okay, so let's get into the 30-day plan. What are the steps in the 30-day plan to save and transform your marriage from no matter where it is now to an amazing relationship, the one you really want to have? Okay, so here are the steps. The first one is you have to discover the real cause of the problems in your marriage. You need to find out what's making things go in the wrong direction. And it's usually not what you think. I mean, most people think that the cause of all their problems, or the reason their marriage is failing or falling apart, is things like a lack of intimacy, or a lack of communication, or maybe you're just not attracted to each other anymore, or one of you isn't perhaps. Maybe you're feeling hurt and resentful, those feelings of pain. Or maybe there are outside pressures, such as family or financial pressures or health pressures. There could be other things as well, but in general people point to these as the cause of their problems in their marriage. But the fact is they're not the real cause of your marriage falling apart, they're just the symptoms. So what you need to do is you need to find the real cause. And what I've found that usually the real cause, and it is a bit different for everybody, but the real cause is usually a combination of either one or several things. And those things are, firstly, not knowing what you really want in your marriage and what your spouse wants as well. Now, if you don't know what you want, as the saying goes, how can you actually get it? And furthermore, how can you expect your spouse to give it to you and to make you happy if they don't know what you want either? So that's the first cause, is not knowing what you really want and what your spouse really wants as well. Now, the second cause of problems in a marriage is wrong communication. And I'm not talking here about lack of communication or poor communication. I'm talking about simply wrong communication. And so often it happens to you, and maybe you've been in this situation yourself. You say, I've told my wife I love her, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you 100 times a day, and then she turns around and says, you don't love me, I don't feel loved by you. And that's an example of the wrong communication. So that again is a major cause of why marriages go wrong. People simply don't know how to communicate correctly with each other. Even if they want to, they simply don't know how to. So the third thing, and this is a big one as well, is values are not aligned between the two people in the marriage. And what do I mean by that? Well, essentially what I mean is that the two people want different things. And on one level, you can want different things. You don't have to both want everything the same, but there does need to be a fundamental agreement over what you want. And when you and your spouse want things that are too different and you don't know how to reconcile those differences, that's where marriages fall apart as well. So I think those are the three real causes, the main causes of why marriages fail. And the first step for you is to discover the real cause in your marriage of what the problems are. So that's step number one. Now step number two, once you've done that, once you've started to figure out what's really wrong in your relationship, what you've got to do next is you've got to get over the hurt. You've got to heal the pain and the hurt that's going on in your relationship. And it might be hurt you're feeling, or it might be hurt your spouse is feeling. But I've found the lack of ability to forgive or to move on from a past hurt is one of the main reasons why marriages fail. And you've really got to do this. You've really got to find a way to get past feeling hurt. And traditional counselling, of course, would have you believe that it takes time to heal from hurt. So you need to give it time. But in actual fact, that's not true, because hurt is really caused by the way you look at something. It's caused by the meaning you give something to an event. So if you can change the way you look at an event, and then you can actually remove the hurt very quickly, and sometimes virtually instantly. And you can also do it quite easily as well. And the good thing is there are tools available now from the areas such as the human behavior movement, or what we know about personal development and peak performance, all these areas. There are tools there that can show you how to do that, how to allow you to change the way you look at something and therefore remove the feelings of hurt. So this is very, very powerful. This is also something you can help your spouse with, and even, dare I say it, without them working on it themselves specifically, you can help them to change the way they look at something and therefore to overcome the hurt as well. And I'm not talking there about any sort of mind control or manipulation or controlling them in any way, but there are tools that you can use to help them and to empower them to get over the hurt as well. So that's very, very important. That's the next step, is to heal the hurt that you or your spouse are feeling. Alright, so once you've done that, step number 3 is you have to get clear on what you and your spouse really want and need to be happy in your marriage. And I'm sure you would agree, we all have needs and wants, but if they're not being met in our marriage, we're simply not ever going to be happy. And what happens then is we either put up with an unhappy marriage and it just gets worse and worse, because if it's not getting better, it must be getting worse. Or what happens, we start to look elsewhere to find it. So we might go and find somebody else, have an affair, get emotionally involved with someone else who is making us happy. Now the good news actually on the flip side of this is if you actually really know what your spouse wants and needs to make them really happy and you give it to them, then they're not going to want to leave you. And in fact, if they already have left, they're going to want to come back. So you really need to get clear on what you and your spouse really want and need. And the thing is, most people aren't clear on what they want or need. And they think it's the house or a car or more money or a better job or even sex. But these aren't the things that make you happy. What really makes you happy are feelings. And you think you want the car and the house and the sex because that will make you happy, but what you really want is the feelings that they're going to give you. And a good way of thinking about this is, have you ever really wanted something, and when you actually got it, you were surprised that it didn't make you feel as happy as you thought it would? Or maybe it did just for a while, and then the sort of novelty wore off, and then the same old feelings of unhappiness came back. And so what did you do then? Well, you think, well, I need something else to make me happy, so then you go after something else, and you think, when I get that, I'll be really happy. And this is what happens with most people, and they get caught up in this endless cycle of always wanting more to be happy. But the thing is, when you do that, you're never going to find what you're looking for, because you need to identify what it is that really makes you happy. And obviously, what makes your spouse really happy as well. So that's really critical, and again, there are processes to help you get really clear on what your true wants and needs actually are. So it's really important. Alright, so step number 4, once you've established where the problems are, and you've got over the hurt that's been a part of your relationship, and then you've started, then you know what you really want and need to be happy, then you can start to rebuild the attraction. And this is really, really important. And there are several keys to getting your spouse attracted to you again and you attracted to them, because I'm sure you'd agree, and there are several things you can do to start to rebuild the attraction in your relationship, and I've covered this in an earlier podcast as well. But the key to getting your spouse attracted to you again is to meet their emotional needs. In other words, it's simply about making them feel good around you. And the way to do that, of course, is to, once their hurt is healed, then is to know what they really want and what they need to be happy. So when you know that, you can start to try and meet their emotional needs and make them feel happy. And the second thing that is a key to getting your spouse attracted to you is to make them feel truly loved by you. And this is really critical. It's what also builds trust and feelings of safety, and which are absolutely vital to have in a strong marriage. And you also need to find ways to get your spouse quickly attracted to you again and deeply attracted to you again, because the truth of the matter is you used to do things that made them feel attracted to you, and I'm pretty sure I could almost guarantee that if they're no longer attracted to you, you're not doing the things that made them feel attracted to you. So you've got to identify what those things were and start doing them again. So that's step number 4, is to rebuild the attraction in your marriage. Okay, step number 5 is you've got to transform your communication. And you'll remember earlier I said one of the major causes of marriage failure was wrong communication. Well, you've really got to start to understand what communication really means in your relationship. So you've really got to find a way to get them to hear you. And in fact, and I cover this in some detail in my programs, there are 3 communication languages, and everybody uses these 3 languages in a unique way, and you've got to discover what your spouse's language is. And when you can do that, you'll suddenly transform your communication. And what you'll find is arguments will be eliminated, you'll be talking the same language, you'll be able to say something to them and get the message through what you're trying to say without misunderstanding. And you'll really take your communication to a whole new level, and you'll be able to share your innermost thoughts and feelings without feeling hurt and rejected, because they will really understand what you're trying to say, and they'll feel very loved by you. Because remember, step number 4 was about rebuilding the attraction. So now you're bringing this to a whole new level by transforming your communication. So that's step number 5. Okay, now step number 6. Now this is where the fun starts to happen, because once you've got rid of all the hurt, you've got clear on what you and your spouse need, and you're starting to communicate in a proper way, and you're rebuilding the attraction in a proper way, that's when you can really take things to the whole new level and what I call create sizzling intimacy. So we're not just talking about a level of intimacy of friendship or getting on well, but we're talking about sizzling intimacy, which is that real passion that you probably shared early on in your relationship. So this is what step number 6 is, to create this level of intimacy, and this sexual intimacy as well. And it's about learning how to fulfill your partner in an intimate and sexual way, and for them to know how to fulfill you and want to fulfill you in an intimate and sexual way as well. So this step is all about creating that deep trust and intimacy by taking it to a sexual... Okay, and step number 7, which is the final step, and this really builds on all of the previous steps. When you get to the stage in the process, you've really created an amazing foundation. And what you want to do is you want to make sure those foundations stay in place and are used to develop your relationship. So step number 7 is really to create the foundations for long-term relationship success and fulfillment. Because what you want to do is you don't want to just create, and I see this happen so often with people who go through programs or do counseling, they get some success in their relationship and they feel good about each other again and they feel positive and happy, but that goes after a short period of time because it's not built on any strong foundation. They still don't necessarily understand what the other's needs are and what their own needs are. They don't necessarily understand how to communicate in the right way. And all they've really done is gone back to the early days of their relationship where they've put a lot of energy and effort back into it, and of course they're going to get some good results. But if you want to create long-term success and happiness and a relationship that continues to get better with time, you have to create some foundations. And that's done by using all of the tools from the previous 6 steps. Because what you want to do is you want to make sure your marriage remains fresh and exciting. I mean, that's why when early on in your relationship you had such a good time, things were new and fun and you wanted to be there. So you've got to find a way to keep your relationship fresh and exciting, and all of the previous 6 steps show you how to do that. You also need to create these foundations so that your relationship is going to be able to withstand the outside pressures and problems that are bound to appear. And again, this is the problem with short-term counselling, that as soon as problems and other pressures, most of which we can't control, as soon as they come along, then everything goes back to where it was and the marriage is in trouble again. And the third thing is, you want to take your marriage to a place where it's truly joyful, it's truly fulfilling for both you and your spouse, and you're not compromising. And I talked about this in one of my earlier podcasts, but we have this belief that a relationship is all about compromise. It's not. A great relationship is about allowing you to be yourself, allowing you to be more of yourself, to develop yourself, and to allow another person to do that as well, in an environment of total trust and love and acceptance. So that's why step number 7 is all about making sure you've got the right foundations in place. Alright, so those are the 7 steps of a 30-day plan to save and transform your marriage. And what you'll find is if you apply these steps, just a small amount each day, using the right information and the right action, it's very possible to go from even the most difficult of marriages to one that's actually very loving, very exciting, and very fulfilling. And you might be wondering, okay, well, how do I do this? Well, I've outlined the steps in the plan, but the good news is I can actually make it even easier for you, because I've got a special program that takes you through each of these steps very, very simply and in systematic fashion over a 30-day period. And it shows you everything you need to do to create that ultimate marriage. It's called my Save Your Marriage program. And as I said, it's simple, it's easy to follow, and it really is specifically designed. I've specifically designed it for couples who are in a lot of pain with their relationship and who are really at their wits' end. They don't know what to do, and they're on the brink of ending things. And I find that a tragedy when people get to that, because my whole message is about a little bit of the right information. When you apply it, makes a world of difference. And I can assure you this is certainly the most effective and powerful program I have ever seen of its type. So if you want to find out more about this program and how you can apply these steps and how you can transform your marriage over a 30-day period, you can find out more information about it on my website. It's at liamnaden.com/program, and that'll give you all the information. So I hope you found this information useful. And if you're really struggling in your marriage, I hope you'll join my Save Your Marriage program, because the information there really does have the power to change your life. And as I keep saying, and I'll say this over and over again, but a little bit of the right information and the right action makes all the difference. But you just need to know what those right things are. And often they can just be the next website, the next book, the next idea, the next podcast away from really helping you transform your marriage. And that's what my Save Your Marriage program is all about. It's the right information. So you can check it out at liamnaden.com/program. And I look forward to helping you and to talking to you again soon. Thanks very much for joining me. Thanks for taking the time out to listen to this. I hope you'll find it useful. I hope you'll apply some of the information. At the very least, really think about how you can apply it to your marriage. And, maybe it's not time to give up. Maybe there's just a bit more you can do. Join me in the Save Your Marriage program, and I think that will make a big difference. So I look forward to talking to you again soon, and that's bye for now.